Well, I'm Steve Murray, and that we're on Murray Family Farms. That my family has been farming in California for 5 generations, but my father died young, and I got an education and started with a diploma and a credit card and started farming. And so 25 years ago, I bought my first farm, and we've expanded up to about 300 or 320 acres of farmland now. We're located in Arvin, which is east of Bakersfield, which is in the most productive fruit and vegetable farmland in the world. And that this is one of the earliest districts in the world. So our stick here is to pick fruit early and to get high prices. And so that's where we're situated. We have a diversified farming operation. We grow more than 200 varieties of fruit, but half of that fruit is cherries. And so cherries are a commercial crop for us that we grow for wholesale business. And then all of the other crops we grow for direct market. We have 2 roadside stands, and we go to 25 different farmers markets. And the crop insurance that we have on our cherries has really been critical for our survival and our ability to operate. That we started growing cherries, I think it was back in 89, and that in 2006 we had a statewide freeze, and that I went to a cherry meeting up in Stockton, and it was a 4.5-hour drive, and the thermometer in my car was at 19 degrees the whole way. And normally in February you'd think the buds would be closed and they would be protected, but it was the 19 degrees just froze the flowers and the buds, and there was a statewide disaster. We had a block of cherries that historically has produced about $1.5 million, and that year dropped down to $90,000. And so that year we lost $1.5 million. The bank said that we had to sell land, and we decided not to, and so we lost our bank, and found another bank that would give us a loan on one of our properties for $1 million, and then with Farm Service Agency they loaned us another $500,000, and we were able to survive it. But at that time there wasn't cherry crop insurance here. It was only to the north in the main county that grows cherries. Since then the crop insurance has been available, and once I was able to get crop insurance, then I was able to get financing, because we went 6 years without any agricultural loans, which is it's hard to cash flow a crop that comes in once a year and be able to survive. And so with our crop insurance, it has allowed us to be able to have a floor, whereas before we had no floor. And with a freeze that we literally, a second freeze would take us out of business. We would just lose the business. And with a crop insurance, it's it's a decision that you have to make, that anybody that is in business, they know that most good businesses make maybe a 10% net margin off of their gross. And for us in our cherry crop insurance, it costs us about 8% of our gross, but it is the thing that allows us to survive. That we have swings in production where we have great years and good years and bad years. That in California in the last 100 years, there's been 15 years that have been within 30% of normal. And so with those wide swings, that sometimes things happen either during the winter, during the spring, or during the harvest season that affect a crop like cherries, and that in my operation, that we wouldn't be able to survive without a crop insurance. It probably, and when you talk to farmers locally, they will say, what are the issues you face? And they'll usually say it's, first off, no water, secondly, no pickers, and third off, new pests and new pesticides to spray with them. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the other one is, going out of business because you have a disaster. And that with our crop insurance, that it keeps us from losing the farm. And that I have 3 kids that are all in the business, or ag students, and that their goal is to come in and take over the business, and that the only way that we could sustain that, that there's going to be the year, and that the only way that you can prepare yourself for that is to operate frugally and have insurance that'll protect you in a disaster. Well, I think that if you take a look at the problems that we have in America today, it's that we don't produce anything. And farmers are some of the few producers that food is one of the only exports this country has where we export more than we import. And if you take a look at this valley that we're in, half of all of the fruits and vegetables grown in the United States are grown in this valley. In our operation, when we had the disaster, we diversified after that. And part of that diversification was going into direct market with the roadside stands and the fruit stands. And that, in our operation, if we were just growing mono crops, and we would have maybe 6 employees working on the farm, but because of our diversification, that we have 80 employees today. And so there's 80 families that are getting the subsistence. A lot of people think of farmers as being the farmer, or the farm being the farmer, and that in California it's maybe 0.5% of the people are actually farmers, and 99.5% do other things. In this county, half of all jobs are interrelated with agriculture. So there's something like 175,000 jobs that are ag-related. They may not be in production agriculture, but in our operation, we have 80 direct employees, but then we have the companies that do the fertilizers, the equipment, the transportation, the processing, the packing houses. There's a multiplier effect where $1 goes 10 times as it rolls over within the community. And that in our community, there's two big, strong anchors. One is oil, because 80% of California's oil is in this county, and the other is agriculture. There's a lot of factors that come with the drought, that we're having very warm winters. We're not getting the precipitation, so we're not getting the chilling. And most people in the country don't think of something you need as chilling, but all of the deciduous crops need to sleep during the wintertime. And so they have a resting period that's required. And then in the spring, you need to have good weather when they're blooming. And then when you're picking them, you need to have weather that doesn't destroy the fruit. It just happens that this last winter was the third drought in a row, and a very warm winter. And so we're coming off of probably our worst production year that we've had, that we had maybe a 90% crop loss this year. And that it is my crop insurance this year that is going to allow me to survive. Without it, I'd be done. The diversity of the farming operation that we have would be converted to almonds, and there would be 6 employees instead of 80. We had the disaster that we had in 2006, that after that we got crop insurance and never had another disaster again up until very recently during these difficult times. And so, if you look at, in my particular situation, we might be paying, $80,000, $90,000 a year for my crop insurance, and you pay that every year, and as it accumulates, you actually don't have a credit there, but you still have insurance there. And so, in a normal, situation, if you have a disaster, it's usually going to be, a narrow disaster, and you get basically not to have to pay your crop insurance. But in this situation with us, that without the crop insurance, that we would be out of business, and that it is something that, again, I don't clearly understand the relationship between crop insurance and the government, but I assume that, when it's going well and the insurance companies are making money, when it's bad, the government's helping the insurance company, but indirectly the farmer's benefiting from it. So again, I'm so glad that we have it, that when we started farming, it was restricted to a single county, that there's maybe 40,000 acres of cherries in the state. One county has 32,000 of those acres. And so you had to be in that county in order to have crop insurance. And over the years, that was called a pilot project. And once they saw that that was working, then they opened it up to the rest of the state, and that it's all based on your production. So it's fair, and it creates a floor. And without a floor in agriculture, that, this all started, I think, back during the Great Depression, and that there were no floors, and all the farmers were going out of business. We're already facing the industrialization of agriculture, where small pieces of farmland are being grouped together and bought by investors. When people don't trust the stock market or the real estate market, agriculture is strong. And so you see a lot of investors going into agriculture. And when you look at the family farms that, where we are in this valley, there's maybe 1,000 farmers within this water supply that we deal with that are small family farms. And that when you lose a small family farm, it's not going to be replaced with another one. It's going to be replaced with a larger corporate farm. And I have nothing against corporate farms or corporate agriculture. I just am glad that I'm able to cut my little niche out of this business and continue to prosper.